welcome everybody to the Wild Card Edition, brought to you by Theraflu, the
The
of Under the
Walking
Dome. Yeah,
The
uh,
Walking Dead.
I'm still getting over my flu, Rona. I know Bob is getting over his, and Sean's in the middle of it. So
Sneezy,
I,
wheezy, and mukey.
that's
Yeah,
it. I apologize for all the coughing that's going to go on this show tonight, as I do it just now. Um, All
on
right. Well,
key.
yeah, on cue. All right. I'm your host, Alan Orick, here with my partner, Sean and Bob. Um, all right. So, wild card weekend happened. We're going to talk about the wild card games. Um, most of them were blowouts, except for the Dallas 49ers game and the Cincinnati Raiders game. But because Dallas lost and the way they lost, it's a tradition like no other. The annual Payton to Dallas rumor started, which is why that picture is on tonight's show. It's Michael Lombardi, who made quite a few errors actually in his reporting. He said Sean Payton is in the last year of his contract, which he is not. He signed an extension in, 2019, I believe. Right, Bob?
Yes, sir.
And he is under contract through 2026. But after that cluster of a game, they are desperate to get a head coach in there who will not screw up clock management, who will not let his team get 14 penalties, I think, in that ball game. Just
Well, I got a novel approach to this problem. Why don't we just let the guy that they have in place as the head coach be the head coach?
well, that's not going to happen with the owner. I posted this today, in fact.
You got a coach that is a Super Bowl winner.
Mhm.
He did that by doing things his way. He called the plays. He had an outstanding quarterback to ride. He had very good run game to go with it. Uh, but they don't even let Mike McCarthy call his own plays.
Don't you know that the real head coach, the owner, has won 4 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys? He knows how to win with the Dallas Cowboys. He
They
built
don't
that
even
team.
show those games on. They don't show them on the NFL Network anymore. They've moved them over to the History Channel.
I'm with what I posted today because somebody commented. I guess it was in NOLA.com or something like that. That Sean Payton needs to go to the Cowboys because he's done enough in New Orleans. There's nothing more he can do. And I basically said, listen, without Googling it, can you tell me who the owner of the Dallas Cowboys was before Jerry Jones? If you can remember or the names Tom Landry, Roger Staubach, Ed Too Tall Jones, Randy White, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson, all those names, but you can't remember who the owner was of the Cowboys, that's why that team went to 5 Super Bowls from 1970 to 1978. Because the people, like you're saying, the people who can run that organization and do all the things that makes that team a winner got to do what they had to do. And the owner stepped back and said, you know what? I just signed the checks. They run the team. Tex Schramm runs that team. He gets the players. Gil Brandt finds the players for Tex to choose. Tex runs that team. Tom Landry coaches that team. No, you got a egomaniac who wants credit for doing it all, and that's why they won't win.
I agree.
I mean, Bob, I know do you have anything to add to that? I know I just started talking over, but I mean, what do you see as wrong with the Dallas Cowboys and why Sean Payton would never go there?
First of all, to address the Payton rumors, I tweeted directly to Michael Lombardi. I have not checked to see if he is on the growing list of national reporters that are blocking me. But I tweeted directly at him and I said, "Stop with the shit reporting." Reporting used in quotation marks. And my response to anybody else, even suggesting or talking about Payton to Dallas or Payton to Chicago, which is another hot rumor now.
Yeah.
There's no smoke there. There's no fire there. There's no story there. Sean Payton is not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you love him or hate him, he is going to be the New Orleans Saints coach, guaranteed in 2022. Now, beyond the NFL, the NFL is not for long, as we all know. So a year from now, we might be talking a different story. I acknowledge that. I doubt it, but we could be talking a different legitimate story. But there's no legitimacy to Sean Payton going anywhere. He doesn't want to. He is happy with the organization. He is happy with his power in the organization. And he's happy in New Orleans in general. Period. End of story there. The Dallas Cowboys, as the three of us were talking, pre-show, and as we were talking in text after the game on Sunday, the San Francisco 49ers won that game on Sunday because they were only slightly less stupid than the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And the problem starts at the very, very top with the egomaniac coach, general manager, quarterback wannabe Jerry Jones. That's why someone like Sean, and I'm not suggesting Sean Payton, I'm saying even someone like Sean Payton would not simply go to the Dallas Cowboys. I know the argument that people will hit me with, well, Bill Parcells went there. Bill Parcells was a caricature of Bill Parcells by that point in his career. He was only trying to hop on, well, maybe this team has enough talent. I'll get another Super Bowl in spite of the owner. He was wrong. And no other coach is going to go there with any legitimacy. Nobody wanted Mike McCarthy after Aaron effing Rodgers ran him out of Green Bay. So McCarthy was destined for a booth job probably. Before Jerry Jones dusted him off of his brief retirement and brought him back in. McCarthy should be hanging on to his jobs by the thinnest of thin margins. But the reality is Jerry Jones probably recognizes that he needs a name coach in charge of the Dallas Cowboys, and he needs Mike McCarthy right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because, and I'm sorry, Sean, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to add to that, even above and beyond all of that, if you think this season was a flying shit show in New Orleans, what do you think it would have been without Sean Payton guiding the ship?
Oh, I know. Jerry actually fired Jimmy Johnson because Jimmy Johnson wouldn't kowtow to him. I mean, they agreed. He resigned from the Cowboys. Johnson resigned from him, and they split ways. But basically, what happened was Jerry wanted to have it was a dinner party after they won their third Super Bowl, and he wanted Jimmy to come over and put the toast up for the great Super Bowl they won. And Jimmy Johnson basically said, "Well, all you did was sign the checks. That was my team that won that thing." And that was the end of their relationship. And
Jerry Jones told him that he wasn't impressed and that he could take Barry Switzer and win the Super Bowl with it.
And you know why he picked Barry? He named Barry Switzer of all people, right?
Yeah, because they were bitter rivals in the state of Oklahoma.
Yep, exactly. So
Jerry, Jimmy, and Barry all played together, if I'm not mistaken, at the University of Arkansas. Or somehow, maybe one was an assistant, a couple were assistant coaches, while one was a player. In any way, shape, or form, they were all at the University of Arkansas in some way, shape, or form at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, that's why Barry Switzer came in. That was to rub it in the face of Jimmy Johnson that he could get Barry Switzer to win a Super Bowl, and he got it. And
with Jimmy's team.
With Jimmy's team, which everyone knew. I mean, they knew that Switzer was a puppet. You could see it in the press conferences. He was a total. He was embarrassing. There's no other way to put it, because it was so obvious. He had been out of coaching long enough. He was an old man now, and he just was a figurehead. That was like, just don't screw it up, and you'll win a Super Bowl. And really, I hate to say this because I know this will come back and bite me, but Neil O'Donnell threw that game.
Literally.
So Switzer could get that Super Bowl ring. I mean, you made Larry friggin' Brown the MVP of that game because you threw 2 passes right to him. And the first one was right after you had all the momentum. Yeah. You could do the surprise onside. Bam, Morris goes and gets a touchdown. And that's always been one of my favorite scenes in that Super Bowl highlight thing, is because I always loved Bill Cowher as a young man, with his whole jaw out, spitting, rabid. I could just picture him still going, let's go, right after the thing, walking out in the field like he's going to go out and play. And the ref's got to go, you got to get back on the sideline, coach, But yeah, that was a great scene in that Super Bowl. And I was so excited when Bam Morris got the touchdown. I'm like, all right, now we're going to put the pressure on Aikman and company. And I don't think they have the heart to do it. I don't think and then Neil O'Donnell throws the 2 interceptions and just kills it. Yeah, from that point on, if you look at the coaches he is hired, and you have to exclude Bill Parcells, because you remember right, Bill Parcells, Jerry Jones admitted at a dinner party or whatever that he only hired Parcells so he could get the financing to build Jerry's World, because they needed to move out of Texas Stadium. So Parcells wasn't even a real coach for them, So that's why the little redhead stepchild who just got fired from the Giants, Jason Garrett, held on to that job so long, because he was always like, yes, sir, Jerry. Yes, sir, Jerry. I'll do whatever you say, Jerry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was like Spike. I mean, like, no, Chester. Remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon? Bugs Bunny cartoon with the big bulldog. It was actually Sylvester, and the Black Panther was loose. And Chester is Jason Garrett, and the bulldog is Jerry Jones. What we gonna do, Chester? What we gonna do, Spike? What we gonna do? You want to go chase a cat, Spike? Nah, bap, and backhands him. Cat, where is it? A cat? My brother, if he comes on, he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about, because
I know which one you're talking about. I thought it was Tom and Jerry, but you're right. It was Sylvester the cat, and when the Black Panther was loose on Looney Tunes.
Yes. Oh my God, my brother and I loved that cartoon, because there's the scene where where Sylvester's got his head covered and he's got the paw out like a scratch. He goes, oh, the pussycat's gonna scratch me. Go ahead and scratch me. And that freaking panther strikes him, and he cuts him like a slice of meat. You just see the sections fall off. Oh God. Yeah, that's my thing was always the Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry too. Tom and Jerry, Tex Avery cartoons, those are my favorite as well. So, but I mean that cartoon, that summarizes how every coach has to be for Jerry Jones. And the sad thing is, Payton is actually good friends with Jerry.
Yeah, he legitimately is.
Yeah,
that's because he doesn't work for him.
That's right. Exactly it. That is exactly. It's like going to work for your best friend. You never want to do that, because that's how you kill a friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real, more than anything else, that would be the ultimate reason why Payton will never
Hmm.
go to Dallas, is because that would destroy their friendship, because he could not work for his friend. He could be friends with him and advise his coaches, but he could never work for him. So, yeah, it was a sloppy rumor, but I think it's just one of those things they're doing to stir up interest, because let's face it, the media, the NFL media, and the NFL to an extent love it when the major market teams are, the dominant teams in the league. And, having the Giants relative, and having the Redskins or the Washington football team relative, the Cowboys, the Eagles. And then, you throw in um, some of the West Coast teams, the Rams, the 49ers, having all those teams relevant. So you have in the nationally televised games, you know, Raiders, Cowboys, Giants, 49ers, they can show all the old footage of
Yeah.
Montana against Phil Simms, and, you know, uh, Ken Stabler and Roger Staubach, and they show all that stuff. They loved for that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and having the Saints with a great coach, that's a waste of time for them. They don't
It
like
is.
that, because the Saints are a small market team. We don't need those. The Saints are one of those teams that should be around, like Jacksonville and Indianapolis. These are the teams that you beat on your way
Mhm.
to the playoffs. And that's what's frustrating about all this. That's why Drew Brees has never won an MVP trophy, because he doesn't play for a major. We're not going to reward that. We're not going to reward a small market team like that doesn't have the history of a Green Bay Packers or the history of a Kansas City Chiefs. We're not going to reward a small market team. So it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's when I go on the verbal attack of Bob Saget and Roger Goodell. Um, I I rarely mean to imply that he and the Goodell goons have it out to get the New Orleans Saints specifically. I don't necessarily think that, although I do think a personal grudge has developed between he and Sean Payton. But I don't think it was there at the start. I have, excuse me, always believed that the marquee teams, the West Coast, the major markets, the historical teams, along with their precious next quarterback, the next great thing. Uh,
mhm.
First it was Rodgers, obviously Brady, Peyton Manning, now Mahomes, expected to be Herbert and or Joe Burrow next. That the league will go out of the way to protect those names to
Justin
boost them up
Fields.
to be the next big thing. Yeah, Justin Fields, etc.
Yeah.
And the Saints were never one of they never checked any of those boxes, so they didn't have it. They don't have a chance as long as future presidential assassin Roger Goodell remains in office.
Yeah, my brother pointed out that New Orleans gives NBC the best ratings for Sunday Night Football, and that is true. They do, but not. They're not. They get almost like an 80% share in the New Orleans market and the Gulf Coast market, but they're not seeing that same kind of level of ratings in the Los Angeles and New York markets.
Mhm.
So cumulatively, yes, they do give them the best ratings, but um uh in the major markets, they're not seeing that. They think they'll see better ratings in the New York markets and the California markets, with those other teams doing very well. And I think that's why they've always pushed they're still pushing the Rams super team to go to the Super Bowl. You
Mhm.
know, they would love to have that. They were very happy to see that crowd, in
Yeah.
SoFi Stadium against the Cardinals. I turned that game off. I couldn't watch the whole thing. That was terrible. That was terrible
The Bills game I turned off at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
The
It's
Rams
over.
game I turned off at halftime. The Chiefs game I turned off at halftime. The Buccaneers game I turned off at the end of the first quarter. Like Sean said, we're talking about San Francisco, Dallas. The only other game worth a squat watching was Cincinnati and the Raiders, which after the Raiders made a little bit of a comeback, it ended up being a game at the end. But Cincinnati really owned them for the first 2.5 quarters.
No, there's not enough. Not enough. No, the Jets are the Jets. I mean, as long as they have the Giants, that's fine for the Jets to be a punchline. It's the Giants that's more important for them. But yeah, I agree with that. I turned off. Yeah, I turned off the Kansas City Pittsburgh game. Probably, I watched till halftime. I walked away. I came back. It was 35-7. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I'm like, okay, well, this game's over. So I turned it off after that. I actually watched most of the Eagles Buccaneers game because I just couldn't believe how bad the Eagles were. I mean, I could believe it because I said in the beginning, if the Eagles can't run the football, they can't do anything offensively. Yeah. And then I just kept shaking my head going, why can't the Saints defense do what the Buccaneers were doing? We have better players in their defense. And why do they act like they've never seen an RPO in their lives when that's essentially what Taysom Hill does every time he's back there? But they're just like totally flabbergasted, like, oh my God, the quarterback's running. He didn't actually hand off the ball. And it's like, what the hell? So, but, Troy Aikman got angry in that broadcast. Did you know that? Did y'all hear about that?
I heard about it, but no, I didn't follow up or any details.
Well, basically it was, Anna wants to know how the hell the Eagles even get in because we lost to them.
Yeah.
That's basically it. The Eagles didn't beat anybody worth a damn. Except they didn't beat anybody worth a damn. They beat us. So they got into the 7th seed instead of us. Because they had the same record. But that was frustrating. But anyway, Aikman, it was during a promo for the next day's game, the Cowboys 49ers game. And Aikman was already frustrated enough having to call this Buccaneers Eagles game that was boring and terrible. He kept saying over and over, I could say it like Charles Barkley, terrible. But he kept saying over and over again, I don't understand why they don't throw to Devontae Harris. I don't understand Devontae Smith. Why they throw to Devontae Smith? I would throw the ball here. They keep running the ball. And yeah, I thought so. My brother said we were the only team with the Eagles beat that had a winning record. I thought as much. But they do the promo for it, and then Aikman just says, I would have liked to have called that game, that Cowboys 49ers game. And he was just getting more and more frustrated and trying to hold his tongue because CBS had the game. But he's like, I would have much rather call that game. I really wanted to call that game. That's going to be a good game. It was funny. It was probably the most drama in that whole ball game, Yeah, somebody asked, where was that Rams team last week when the Saints were about to make it in the playoffs? All right.
They weren't playing Kyler Murray.
Well, I'm going to ask both of y'all this. Bob, do you think the Rams threw that game when they realized that Arizona was going to lose and they were going to win the division by default?
Through the game, no. Eased up very, very much so. And the difference between the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers is the San Francisco 49ers have the capability to play physical with you. The Arizona Cardinals do not. And there's the difference right there and how to beat the LA Rams. All you need to do is rough them up a little bit and they'll wilt like a flower every single
Absolutely.
time. The Rams are soft, heartless, gutless, and spineless. And LA was fortunate enough and Jim Everett, if you're watching, I love you, brother, but I don't love your team. LA was fortunate enough to play an Arizona team that I thought was overrated all year long, and that clearly was not ready for the hot spotlight of playoff football. There's where your differences were in the last 2 weeks.
The Rams, I mean, the Cardinals and the Eagles both, they needed franchise quarterbacks to win, and they don't have that.
Oh, yeah.
They've got scat backs that can throw a pass.
Well, and that was the thing I've always said about RPO kind of offenses. Granted, let's just leave Buffalo out of this because we'll talk about that game in a minute. But if you notice, the teams that have basically an RPO-based offense really either didn't make the playoffs or haven't won a championship in the playoffs, the postseason. And it's because at some point in the game, you're going to have to start throwing the football.
Yep.
And how well you throw that football, even if you're a mobile quarterback, how well you throw that football and what kind of receivers you're throwing that to will make the difference. You need and I don't think the Cardinals had as good a defense as people made it out to be.
Absolutely not.
I saw Cam Akers running through that defense like it was nothing. And I just it was a totally disappointing game. I thought Arizona would at least give them a challenge, but not having DeAndre Hopkins really hurt them. It's pretty obvious this guy, much like Michael Thomas with the Saints, this guy really makes the passing game go for the and Kyler Murray likes to throw that deep ball and Hopkins can go get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about the Jalen Hurts is god awful. He
was a reach at best when they drafted him.
Yeah.
He is a guy that if he can't run the RPOs and you put it all on him to win the game, he can't do it. And that's
it goes right back to what I've said for years. There is a night and day difference between a great college quarterback and a great professional quarterback. It is not synonymous, and it is not the same skill set.
No,
You're
because there's too many quarterbacks who flamed out in the NFL. You look at, let's just go back to Andre Ware in the University of Houston. When the University of Houston was running the run and shoot, and they were just lighting people up. He and David Klingler both put up video game kind of numbers at the University of Houston. Detroit even brought in Mouse Davis to run a version of the run and shoot. They called it the Silver Stretch at the time to help Andre Ware run an offense that he was used to in college. And what happened? Detroit was terrible, and the limitations of that offense were exposed. Warren Moon ran it a hell of a lot better in Houston than Andre Ware, who was supposed to be able to do all these things, did with Detroit. It's absolutely right, Sean. And we'll talk about college quarterbacks in a few weeks when we start talking about the draft. But, the college quarterbacks, the more and more spread offenses that we're seeing, the more and more RPO-based offenses we're seeing, it's going to be harder and harder to find a complete quarterback or a quarterback who can do everything for you. And that's why you see teams, once they get a Joe Burrow or once they get, Justin Herbert. I knew I'd do it at least once. But once you get one of those kinds of quarterbacks in a draft, you're going to hold on to these guys. These are the guys that you need to win.
If you're smart, yeah.
Yeah, if you're smart. Right. If you're smart.
That eliminates Detroit.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does.
And the Jets.
Probably. The Jets, it's so hard because the Jets are so much like John Meekham's Saints. You know, you could put a good player on that team and they just get run through the meat grinder and they destroy them. Maybe Sam Darnold could have been a good quarterback at one point, but is he broken now? Looks like it, and Zach Wilson's probably going to be broken too. Mac Jones, you put Mac Jones on the Jets, they're not going to the playoffs. They break him. You put Mac Jones on the Detroit Lions, they're going to break him. You have to find also a coach who can build a team around what your quarterback does well.
Mm-hmm.
And despite what happened in Buffalo, the Patriots are trying to build a team around what Mac Jones does well.
Yeah.
And, I think you'll see that in the future. So let's talk about the blowouts. Since we already talked about Tampa and Philadelphia. Buffalo took 15 years of frustration out. It was like the Coward of the County. You think about that song, the song Coward of the County, when the coward locks the door after they rape his girlfriend, which is actually kind of freaking dark if you think about it in that song. But yeah. He just goes and whips ass. All those years they called him Yella. That Buffalo just took out revenge. What did y'all think of that game?
I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, I although I respect what Bill Belichick has done and gotten away with, I absolutely love to see him or a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers get absolutely bombarded like they did. But I'll be honest with you guys too. That game, more than any others this weekend, that shocked me because of the way it happened. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember going into the week whether I picked New England or Buffalo. I was on the fence, but basically I expected it to be a close game, and I still believe the Bills are vastly overrated. But man, what they did to New England, and you're right. Brady and Belichick beat up on them for so many years. That it is nice to see a team get their comeuppance like that. And we went through it as older Saints fans. The 49ers beating the hell out of our Saints every year in and year out.
What year did we beat the hell out of the 49ers like that, though?
Well, and that's what I was coming to. Yeah. You get to the point where you feel like a 10-point victory is a rout, and those happen very rarely too. So, we as older Saints fans, we certainly get and can empathize with the Bills and what the Bills fans were feeling. But man, it had to be so sweet if you're a Buffalo Bills fan or supporter or former player for that game to happen the way that it did.
Mm-hmm. In front of their fans too. I mean, I've told the story 1,000 times. I'll tell it 1,001 times. But that 2011 playoff game, which unfortunately showed up in my memories a few days ago because it's the anniversary. It's 11-year anniversary of that game, that playoff game, or 10-year anniversary actually, because it happened in January of 2012. That when Jimmy Graham caught that touchdown pass and scored. I was screaming at the TV, how does it effing feel? Except I didn't say effing. I said, how does it feel? Get your heart ripped out right in front of you. And of course, spoke too soon. But yeah, that would have been my Buffalo, what they did to New England moment, because that happened in San Francisco. at a place that has been a house of horrors because they were still at Candlestick back then, weren't they? Or were they at they weren't at Levi Stadium yet. I think they were still at
I think they might have renamed Candlestick, but I think the venue was still the same.
Yeah, still Candlestick. So yeah, so that would have been my Buffalo beating New England moment if that final score holds and Jimmy Graham has the game-winning touchdown, or even better, Roman Harper picks off that pass right there in the end zone. That would have been even better because of so many years of Joe Montana bailing them out and getting that last second score, doing whatever it takes to get that last minute score. My brother's saying since the second half against the Saints, the Bills have turned into the Josh Allen show. I think they've been the Josh Allen show most of the season.
Yeah.
If you shut down Josh Allen, like the infamous Jacksonville game, Josh Allen beat up Josh Allen in that game because Josh Allen from the Jaguars picked him off twice. But yeah, it's one of those games that it's one of those teams that I don't think is going to advance. It'll be interesting to see how they match up. They play the Bengals, right?
No, Chiefs.
They play the Chiefs. Okay.
Yeah. Bengals play the Titans.
You're right.
That's right. Because I had said somebody made they wanted to know my prediction for the Super Bowl, and I'm still sticking with Chiefs Packers replay Super Bowl I. Only because I think the Bengals don't have enough experience. Yeah, there's money in there too. I don't think the Bengals have enough experience. I need Tom Brady and the Rams to die because I do not want to see those clowns in there. And I think if the Chiefs can avoid the Titans, I think they have a much better chance of repeating, because if it becomes the Chiefs versus the Bengals, I think the experience of Patrick Mahomes beats out the Bengals and gets them
Andy
going.
Reid too. And the Andy Reid factor will be big in that one as well.
State Farm Bowl. Yeah, Farm Bowl.
While everybody was hopping on the it's going to be a Belichick versus Brady Super Bowl around midseason, I will pat myself on the back for this. I was the one saying, not so fast. I am still thinking it's going to be a Chiefs Packers Super Bowl. Because of that. I wasn't discounting the Brady Belichick factor. I'm not discounting the Brady versus Mahomes factor either.
The rematch.
Yeah, the rematch of that. I am trying to leave reality out of this and focus on what football should be and talk about what the matchups should be. But when you have international triple agent Roger Goodell in charge, you do realize that the reality is what we as Saints fans have seen with the Nolan no call, and we could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to.
Well, the big news coming out of San Francisco is that Jimmy Garoppolo could have a shoulder injury and may not play Sunday or Saturday. Did they play Saturday or Sunday? I don't even remember anymore. I think they play
the Saturday game. They and Bengals Titans are the Saturday game.
Okay, so he may not play on Saturday.
Lined up so I can remember.
I got you. So yeah, you may get Trey Lance versus Brady, which will be interesting to see how that plays out. The other big news is I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to be active for this game or not.
He practiced in pads today.
He did.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think if there's anybody who could stop the Chiefs, it's Derrick Henry, because they are not going to be able to shut him down. So I will be curious to see if the Bengals this week can handle Derrick Henry. If Burrow and Jamar Chase get hot and make it a shootout game where you cannot afford to run Derrick Henry, then they have a good chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
But if Derrick Henry gets rolling and they control the clock and keep Burrow on the sideline and just keep pounding Henry at that defense, I don't see it going to happen. I just don't see the Bengals being able to overcome that.
And look, you guys know as well as I do, playoffs, football period, but especially playoffs are all about matchups. And the Derrick Henry factor aside, if he's 100%, then I go with the Titans for the reason that you say. But I actually think the Bengals are going to go into Tennessee and upset the Titans. Burrow and that group of receivers, and that Northern New Orleans Saints defense that they have. They have 3 Saints that are playing pivotal roles. I love the way the Bengals are playing right now. If Derrick Henry was 100%, I don't think Cincinnati wins this game. But I agree with what Sean said. I think Henry will play. If he's close to 100%, it's going to make it a close game. But I like the Bengals to come out of this, which is kind of a shame. If there's a team I'm rooting for in the AFC, it's them, because I don't like Tennessee. I despise Kansas City. And I think Buffalo is nauseatingly overrated. But I think Kansas City. I expect Kansas City to handle Buffalo fairly easily, believe it or not. Which would bring, if those predictions hold true, obviously an AFC Championship game of Cincinnati and Kansas City. And I know the Bengals beat the Chiefs a few weeks ago, and you just said it a couple segments ago, Alan. Playoff football is different.
Yeah.
We know NFL players that have told us that every round is different from the previous round. And that's where I think the playoff inexperience could catch up with Cincy a little bit. Sean pointed out correctly that the Bengals looked awful tight in the middle of that Raiders game, and that's what allowed Vegas to claw back into it. You play tight against Tennessee, who's seasoned. People forget that. Or you get to the next round and against Buffalo, or the playoff experience of Andy Reid and Mahomes. Cincy is in trouble then. But I still like them this weekend.
Sean, Packers, Rams.
That could potentially be a bloodbath.
Aaron Rodgers is infamous though for choking in the playoffs. They usually wait. Oh, I'm sorry. They play the 49ers?
Yes.
I thought the 49ers played Tampa Bay. Okay. Well, all right. So Rams playing. Well, first let's talk about Green Bay. Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has a reputation of choking in the playoffs, but not in the divisional round. Do you see them taking care of business pretty easily in the divisional round?
And were they playing the 49ers?
Yeah. Well, no. My brother's saying it too. It's Bucks Rams, so it's Brady against Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field.
I am so confused.
No,
I am too.
It's Packers 49ers on Saturday, and then Bucks Rams on.
Yes. I'm sorry. You're
It's
right.
Okay.
I was just checking everything just to make sure. So it's Bucks Rams.
Especially if there's no Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
This has a chance, the potential of being a terrible, terrible blowout.
Yeah. I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to win the divisional round no matter who he plays. He's beating that team in the divisional round. He's going to make it to the NFC Championship game, and that's where, if he's going to choke, that's where he does it. Because that's where he's done it the past few years. When he gets that divisional round, that's where he saves his worst game, it seems. So, yeah, I think this is where the 49ers train stops. it's interesting because the 49ers run the football very well. So you would think, and Elijah Mitchell, UL student there, UL graduate, but this is a good matchup for them between Debo Samuel and Eli Mitchell being able to run the ball on the Packers. But I think Aaron Rodgers just starts eating up that secondary, just tearing apart that 49ers secondary, and probably no Joey Bosa. We saw the linebacker, shoot, I just had it a second ago. Greenridge? No.
Fred Warner.
Fred Warner. Thank you. Fred Warner go down with an injury. I think that just makes it that much harder for the 49ers to get to Aaron Rodgers. That's why suddenly Dallas was able to move the football at the end of the game the way they were, because the injuries started piling up for that defense. I just feel like it's all too perfect for Green Bay right now to win that game. So the other one's Bucks Rams then. So we got a team with no heart playing against the Golden Boy. The question isn't how do the 49, how do the Rams beat the Bucks? It's how do the refs help the Bucks go on to the NFC Championship game?
Sean?
I would say probably blatantly.
I mean, it took, 3 plays before Brady got his roughing the passer call.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be night in Green Bay, so you know that. Yeah, it's Bob, how do you feel the officials going to help the Bucks make it to the NFC Championship game? Because they can't do it on their own.
No, absolutely not. The only thing that might save us from that, that blatant corrupt behavior is the fact that the LA West Coast Dream Team, Stafford, but I still think the league office is going to favor Brady
playing a home game in their home stadium,
right?
Super Bowl with that storyline,
right?
Yeah.
But remember, once Goodell figured out that he could get away with that narrative last year with Brady, that's why we should have all seen last year coming before it came.
Yeah,
but
we should have.
On paper, the Rams actually, if you look at the two rosters, the Rams actually should have the advantage in most positions against the Bucks. They can bring internal pressure. Lord knows they can with Aaron Donald. They could still come from the edge with Von Miller and Leonard Floyd, and they have a couple of terrific corners. But the Rams have no safeties right now, none. And I know the media is trying to shove poor Tom Brady has no weapons down our throat. Look, he's going to have Leonard Fournette back. He still has Mike Evans, who plays really well against everybody not named Marshawn Lattimore. And most importantly for this Rams matchup, he has Gronkowski and Cameron Brate. And that's where they're going to eat the Rams alive in the passing game. Get rid of that ball. Brady's going to get rid of that ball. He gets rid of it as quick as anybody ever has. And we all know you can't touch him anyway. And they're going to be able to, if they're able to run the ball with Fournette like they were last year's playoff run, that makes the Bucks a physical team. And I've already said what I feel about the Rams when they go up against a physical team. And I don't think LA is going to be able to run the ball with the same kind of success against Tampa Bay than they did Arizona. Therefore, they're going to have to be physical to get any success on the ground against the Buccaneers defense. We know the Rams can't do that. So again, when you look on paper, you should say, this will be a close game. And I know the Rams thumped the Buccaneers back in September or October. This is playoff football now, ladies and gentlemen. This is when Brady and the Goodell machine, gets geared up into high gear. So I think this has the potential to get ugly.
Well, Tristan Wirfs. Worfs. Thank you. I was trying not to say Worf, like the Star Trek character. So Worfs had a bad knee. He tried to play on it. He went down a couple more times, and then he eventually sat out. I don't know if he'll be able to play this weekend. Yeah, they could put a brace on him, but he really struggled with speed rushers and spin moves. Um, this is a game where I'm matching Von Miller up against somebody. I'm matching Von Miller up against Worf's backup that's probably going to play and make them keep Gronkowski or Brate in to block and help him out because that takes away a passing weapon. And as the Saints have shown, and the Eagles tried to do it with a four-man rush. You get four men, just a four-man rush, and you hit Brady. Not late, just as he lets that ball go. Or you make him hold it that extra second and you sack him a few times. Brady gets frustrated. He doesn't like to be touched. He is a total diva quarterback, and then this is a stupid argument I got in with somebody. I still feel, because I've watched both Brady and Joe Montana play, I will always feel Joe Montana was the better quarterback, regardless of the records, regardless of the Super Bowls, simply because I never saw Montana lose his cool like Brady does. Montana was not a diva. And Montana can cut your heart out and hand it to you like he's doing you a favor. He's that cold-blooded in the way he attacked defenses. He always was in control. I mean, the Dome Patrol could sack him 8 times and knock his ass around. And then he gets up and acts like he hasn't been dirty all game. And boom, boom, boom. 3 plays later, kicking a field goal, won the freaking ball game. And it's like, how does he do this? How do you get up off the canvas? It's like WWE. You get off the canvas, you're a dead man. They did the 8 count. They're up to 9, and you got up, and now suddenly you have all your powers, and you beat them. That was Montana, and I've watched the Saints beat up on Brady too many times for me to sit there and go, oh yeah, I'm scared of Brady. I don't want to have to play Tom Brady. He's tough. Oh, I just never felt that way. I'm like, just hit him, touch him. He hates it. He hates
Same with Aaron Rodgers. Same with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Brett Favre, you hit him, he's coming back. He's coming back for more. I mean,
Yeah, at least Favre kept coming back. He'll throw 4 interceptions, but he kept coming back.
He'll keep throwing too.
Yeah.
Right. Rodgers, Brady, they'll go into cocoons. That's why I will never consider either quarterback. Neither quarterback is even in my top 10 best quarterbacks of all time.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, today is the anniversary of the NFC Championship game. I think today's date in 2009 when we played him. And I know he's persona non grata now, but I'm telling you, that play where Darren Sharper comes in from the secondary and times that blitz perfectly, and NFL film shows it from Favre's point of view. Here comes Sharper. He lets that ball go. Sharper hits him, and you just see in slow motion Favre's chest cave in around that hit, and he falls back like that. I'm just like, man, he was like a guided missile,
Yep.
and you hit Brady like that. First off, they throw about 1 million flags.
Yeah.
You don't see green on the field anymore. There's so many yellow flags. But secondly, it's just he doesn't come back from that kind of hit.
Nope.
Anna ordered her Chauncey Gardner Johnson Brady T-shirt. That's got to be the image of 2021 Saints season. Him with his arms folded like that. Just Perfect. All right. Last thing, I really wanted to spend more time on this, but since we did the wild card stuff, and we're going to be doing playoff football all week, I probably will push this off for another week. Then I wanted to talk about, kind of grade the Saints position by position, and I wanted to start with the quarterbacks because obviously that's the biggest one. Um, we are looking at, if you don't get Winston back, and we're not even sure if the Saints are going to try and get Winston back. We're going to look at. I'd like for y'all to think about this. Um, what would it take to get a Russell Wilson? And if Russell Wilson, that never happens because Pete Carroll doesn't leave, they do what they need to do to make Russell happy. What other quarterbacks are out there that you would like the Saints to look at that possibly will be available? Jimmy Garoppolo is one of them because, his replacement, Trey Lance, will probably play this weekend. Derek Carr, who played Saturday, the Raiders are always talking about wanting to get an upgrade from Carr, which is, to me, is insane. But
I think that narrative changes now, though, with Gruden gone.
But does it? I mean, because they fired Mike Mayock, which, Mike Mayock is that is, to me, that is the reason why you don't listen to Todd McShay and Mel Kiper, because here Mike Mayock that was his job, was to talk about people's draft picks and who you should draft, and he had to build a team. And you find out that what you say on television sure as hell doesn't matter when you're actually building a team. Bill Tobin was right. Who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? My mailman knows as much about the draft as Mel Kiper, and he doesn't even have season tickets. So I don't know what's going to happen. Then there's some other quarterbacks you always hear rumors about. The Browns may want to cut bait with Baker Mayfield. I've heard that one too, which is insane, given the Browns' history. So that's something we can talk about, I think, next week because there'll be fewer games. Anna brought up Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins may be out there. Because
you will see me vomit on live TV.
I mean, there's a few hundred. I mean, there's all kinds of options, and then of course, the draft. You've got Matt Corral, Bob's favorite, Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, the kid from Liberty, Malik Wilson is his name.
Willis, I think.
Malik Willis. That's it. The quarterback from Liberty. I mean, I know we got a long time before that stuff, but that's all. To me, I think the Saints, Jerry says that he believes Jameis Winston's probably going to be back with the Saints. It's probable, but I think all options are on the table for the Saints, honestly. And I think that's the kind of stuff we can talk about next week.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, as we sit here this week, and I completely agree with you guys. There's so much dust that has yet to settle. Mm-hmm. I do believe that Derek Carr could be available, depending on the coaching situation. In Las Vegas, Sean. I agree with you. If they bring their interim, if they remove the interim label off of the guy that finished out Gruden's year, I think Carr's back. I think you're right. Otherwise, the four names to watch at this stage for the Saints at quarterback have to be Russell Wilson, obviously, Jameis Winston, just as obviously, Derek Carr, if he becomes available, and we all can agree that Jimmy Garoppolo will be available. Those are the four major names. Mm-hmm. Rodgers is not going to leave Green Bay. He's going to whine and cry until he gets the attention that he wants. The draft is certainly an option. not much of one, if you ask me. Nothing for the immediate future for sure. So that's why I say the 4 names the way I do. And like you guys said, there's still weeks that we could talk about this. At this point, my early favorite for the 2022 Saints quarterback job has to be Winston. Familiarity, and just close knit with the locker room. He was finally able to grasp the system, all those different things. So that's why I think that he's my favorite right now. Not necessarily the guy I'd choose personally, just the guy I think will have the job as we sit here today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think he has the advantage right now. I'll be honest with you. I think the Saints, because of the contract situations and the finance situations they have, because I know they really want to sign Marcus Williams. They want to get that. They don't want to have to use a franchise tag again. They have to get $60 million cleared off the books, just to be cap compliant. I think they can do both of those. But I think with Winston, if they go with Winston, they're going to Carl Nicks, Mark Ingram him. In other words, if we're going to sign Winston, this is what we're paying you. This is the contract. No negotiation, nothing. This is what we're going to offer you. If you don't like it, go find yourself a better deal. We have somebody on the hotline we can call to take your place. People aren't going to like hearing this, but that's part of the reason why they re-signed and redid the deal with Taysom Hill, because Sean Payton thinks he can win games at least with Taysom Hill and get another quarterback somewhere that he could split reps with Taysom Hill and worry about drafting a quarterback the following year. Mm-hmm. Because as Payton said, even when they failed to get Patrick Mahomes, we're always in the quarterback market. They're always going to be looking. So, and that's not to dismiss Winston. It's to say that they, in their mind, they're not sold on this is going to be my long-term guy.
Fair.
Yeah, I think all options are on the table. I mean, that's just how I feel. I don't know, Sean, I don't know how you feel.
I agree with that.
I think they will look at lots of different quarterbacks. And I have Garoppolo as the dark horse quarterback only because he went to Eastern Illinois, same place that Sean Payton came from and Tony Romo came from. Payton liked him coming out of the draft.
Yep.
And like it or not, I know he gets hurt a lot. I know he's not an elite quarterback. And if I'm trading with the 49ers, I'm not giving him anything higher than a 4th. I'll give you a conditional 4th. I'll give you a 4th for next year that could turn into a 2nd if he meets certain criteria. And one of them is you got to start 16 frigging games or 17 games. You can't miss any game because of injuries. But you'd have to make Pro Bowl, throw for 5,000 yards, throw for over 40 touchdowns, get this team the NFC Championship game, all these kind of, Ricky Williams kind of deal that we did with Miami. You'd have to hit these marks. But, I've got, to me, Garoppolo is their fallback option if they decide to let Winston test the market. And obviously Russell Wilson doesn't happen. I think that's where they start look. If there's going to be a quarterback they're going to trade for, I think they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. The question is now, what is Garoppolo's worth? I don't know.
What was I saw the comments scroll across real quick, but I didn't get a chance to read it. It was something about Mike Detillier and the Saints News Network.
Yeah. Jerry said he talked to Mike Detillier and the Saints News Network with Kyle Mosley. I was hoping he was going to say, what did Mike say? I've heard Mike talk about some things about him, about Winston and the quarterback situation, but I don't.
Well, yeah,
I don't know all the details.
Jerry, you're right. Mike is legendary. We've had him on a few times. I feel a little bit slighted that you didn't include me because I was sitting on the panel too when you jumped in. Uh, Mike is saying a lot of the same things that we have been saying about the quarterback situation. And Kyle and I have not gotten together with Mike on a live show in quite some time. Uh, but essentially, we're almost hitting reset on what we were talking about last year. We don't know a whole lot more about Winston than what we did. We can all acknowledge he was coming along and avoiding turnovers, but that was it. We didn't see the offense really take off or anything like that. I think at least last year at this time we could all say, and this is what Mike said to us last year. That Jameis kind of bet on himself last year to this time when he signed another 1-year deal. Thanks, Jerry. Love you, buddy. No, I do. Jerry's a cool guy. Winston bet on himself, and I think that he thinks that he did enough. Because also what Mike pointed out was that at this time last year, we all knew what the salary cap, how much lower the salary cap was going to be, and what hell the Saints were going to be in. So a lot of these free agents, and Alan, you, me, Sean, we all talked about it too during free agency last year. A lot of these guys took 1-year deals because they were waiting to cash in on this year's free agency. And with the potential quarterback market going wild, I mean, Houston's going to be looking without Deshaun Watson. Miami, who the hell knows what they're doing down there? They don't. And so many other teams looking to cash in on the quarterback sweepstakes. Winston, I think Winston could very easily end up in Pittsburgh, for example. Yep. With the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger. As a matter of fact, I've said many times that if Winston doesn't end up in New Orleans, my betting money is on Winston going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's just going to be that kind of crazy offseason. And Mike did clue us into that kind of thing. He had a little bit of foreshadowing last year, when we talked to him about this year's free agency class.
I feel the same way. I think Pittsburgh's going, and my brother wrote that too. Pittsburgh is going to determine a lot of this. What they do at quarterback. What does Denver do at quarterback? Do they stick with Teddy Bridgewater? Who does that new coach want to bring in? Because you're not going to win with Drew Lock. I mean, you're just not. So you need a quarterback in there if you don't want to go with Teddy Bridgewater. If you don't want to go with Teddy Bridgewater. What does Carolina do? When they kept Matt Rule, And here's the interesting thing. Okay, so we haven't talked since, Black Monday. And when they fired all the coaches, and the Miami coach Flores was kind of a surprise. In fact, it was a surprise they let him go because they were in the playoff hunt until the last couple weeks of the season, and it was a big turnaround after starting 1-7. They won 7 straight, including the bullshit game that the Saints had to play. But it's coming out a little bit that apparently Flores and Tua didn't see eye to eye. And that was a huge split. And the ownership basically took Tua's side and said, you know what, if you don't like Tua, then one of you have to go, and it's not going to be Tua.
Right.
And Watson said the reason why he wanted to go to Deshaun Watson said the reason why he wanted to go to Miami was he wanted to play for Flores. Well, guess who the Texans are interviewing for a job? Mm-hmm. So I would not be shocked at all if the Texans go ahead and hire Flores to try and pressure Watson to make a decision, either jump ship or retire. I'm sorry, either join get on board or retire. Because I think they can settle all these court cases and stuff out of court, pay hush money, no charges filed, maybe a suspension or so, but for a game or so. But basically Ben Roethlisberger this thing away, and with Flores as the head coach, does Watson get to play with his coach, and we act like 2021 never happened? That's one of the interesting things I think you can see out of this. So that again, that manipulates the whole quarterback market. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But basically, the other quarterbacks, Trevor Simeon, Taysom Hill, Ian Book. We talked a little bit about Taysom Hill. I thought Taysom Hill. Now you gotta make me cough. I thought Taysom Hill got better each game, with his best game, unfortunately, coming the game he got hurt against Atlanta. Trevor Simeon, I think Trevor Simeon is just a career backup that you don't want to start him, but he's good coming off the bench. We talked about this before. And Ian Book, I have a feeling Ian Book is. We'll see what happens this year, but if the Saints do draft a quarterback, I think Ian Book ends up on the practice squad if they don't just release him or trade him away. Just because I think that the Saints feel like Ian Book's ceiling is Trevor Simeon, basically. Whereas a rookie quarterback, regardless of who it will be, their ceiling's much higher, that you could actually might get a starter out of that guy. Yeah. So we'll. I mean, y'all agree with that? I mean, Sean? Do you see it that way?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and again, I promise you, I won't be beating the Garoppolo drum all off season. But I think if they go with that decision to trade for Garoppolo, I think that there will be a quarterback they will draft, because I think Garoppolo will be there. He's 30. He is kind of their transition quarterback right now. He can run the offense. Bob, you alluded to this when it came to Jameis Winston, and John even mentioned it, how many he surprised bring people in on Winston. Given that if you take away the seam routes and take away the touchdown passes, when it was just running the offense between the 20s, Winston had trouble consistently moving the ball, and I think that's going to play a factor. Yes, throwing touchdowns is great. That's how you win ball games. And yes, cutting the interceptions down is great. That's how you keep from losing ball games. But one of the reasons why we lost the Giants game was because we couldn't hold up an 11-point lead. Yep. And that came from not being able to drive the football consistently. And I think a lot of people in on Winston because it's the devil we know. It's the same reason why they were into Teddy Bridgewater. He's the devil we know. There's a huge amount of risk saying, let's go look for a quarterback now, not named Russell Wilson. Why are these guys getting rid of a Derek Carr?
Right.
Why would we want to take Jimmy Garoppolo with his bum shoulder and broken finger, and he's always getting little nicks and injuries? Why would we want to get a Kirk Cousins who can't win big games? Why would we want to, and that's every quarterback. I mean, Sam Darnold. Look at no further than Sam Darnold. We thought they thought they could fix him coming out of the Jets, and he's broken. So, yeah, that's the hard part, and I think that's why some people are in on Winston. Last thoughts. Looking at, we talked about the Chiefs, we talked about the Packers, the Bucks, the Rams. We did a little bit about the Titans and the Bengals. Sean, do you see any scenario where the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl and we get a repeat of Super Bowl 16 and 19? Or I'm sorry, not 19. That would have been Super Bowl 22. I think it's 22.
It was 23.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to sit there and count the game. That's right. 22 was the Redskins, Denver. So
Yeah,
23.
that's what I did. I counted off Elway's Super Bowl losses until I got to Bengals
Yeah.
9.
Believe it or not, I sat there and I was wondering, who the hell played the Super Bowl in 1984? Who was that? And I'm like, oh, yeah, 49ers kicking Marino's ass. I forgot. Because I know 20 is Bears,
Yeah.
Patriots. I know that because that was in the dome and I can picture the logo. So I know that's 20. So then I start doing the math in my head. Once I get past 30, I'm done. I cannot keep track of those numbers. I know who 40 is, and I know 44, but I cannot. After that, I'm like, okay, 39. Who was 39?
Mhm.
I think 31 was. I'm going. I think that was Favre in the Patriots in the dome, but I'm not sure. So it's fun.
I
But
don't
anyway,
see any scenario where the Bengals play the 49ers.
okay. Do you see the Bengals making the Super Bowl?
I think it's possible. That team is kind of on a hot streak right now. The things would have to fall into place perfectly. They'd have to catch some breaks. But yeah, I could potentially see them getting there. I hope that they do.
Well, they are the de facto Saints team right now because a lot of Saints fans that are LSU fans, they like Burrow, they like Chase.
My biggest concern for the Bengals right now is their injury situation coming out of their last game. Like
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything as far as whether Hendrickson is going to be in concussion protocol or not, but
Oh, that's true. That's
um,
true.
he's a big part of what they're doing on defense, and
Yeah.
it's not just him; it's several different players.
Yeah, they Cincinnati had a linebacker go down too, and the biggest loss, and they had turned around and placed him on IR immediately on Monday. They lost defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're going up against Derrick Henry, man, if he's at even 80%, that's big trouble. But I have both number one seeds going down this weekend. Yeah, now, I have the 49ers beating the Packers if that's if Garoppolo is healthy enough to play, if Warner is healthy enough to play, if Bosa is healthy enough to play, and if they can overcome the Rodgers refs in Lambeau. And I realize those are big ifs, but this 49er team that should have beaten Green Bay early in the year, if not for a last-minute Rodgers drive sprinkled in with a couple penalties. So, Sean, I think you were the one that said it early in the show. Frisco matches up with Green Bay well, but because of those injuries, it has the potential to be a bloodbath at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a hard time because of those injuries seeing the 49ers make it past. Now they travel well. They with a running game and a good enough defense, you can deal with the cold in Lambeau.
Mhm.
You don't need to throw the ball. But I just think that their best game was against the Cowboys in this case. And it's unfortunate because to me, if the 49ers beat the Packers in Lambeau, I think the Rams can beat the Bucks just because I just feel like their offense, and again, it can't be Detroit Matthew Stafford. It's got to be LA Matthew Stafford. I think their offense can force Brady to play a shootout, which minus their weapons, I don't think they can really last in a shootout.
I agree with that.
So if the 49ers end up playing the Rams in the NFC Championship game, I've got the 49ers winning that one again. Just because, and so that's how the 49ers get there. Yes. The Bengals have to beat the Titans because the Bengals need to play a team like the Chiefs, not a team like Buffalo, believe it or not, because Buffalo is just going to be too physical with sending Josh Allen at them. And their secondary is good enough to handle, at least contain Jamar Chase. They're not going to let him run free. Yeah, they're not going to let him run free. So, but Cincinnati's built to play in a shootout with Kansas City, and Kansas City's defense is terrible. So I think that's the way you get 49ers Bengals rematch, for the third time and that long of a gap. But I don't feel that I just don't feel like it's in the cards for them. I think the Bengals have a better chance of upsetting, given what we know, the Bengals have a better chance of upsetting the Titans than I think the 49ers have upsetting the Packers in the divisional round in Lambeau. If this was the NFC Championship game, I would say the 49ers have a better shot because Rodgers just doesn't lose divisional round games at home.
Rarely. Yeah, rarely.
Yeah. He waits to the championship game to shit the bed. I mean, honestly, he does. I'm sorry. I'll never forgive him for not running that ball in for a touchdown, trying to throw it against Tampa Bay. I'm just like, the whole thing is open. No one's going to touch you, and you blow it. You gave the Buccaneers that damn game.
Yep.
Last thing, I'm sorry, this will be the very last thing before we go off the air. You guys, well, Sean, you're not active on Twitter anymore, but Bob, you are. Have you noticed these loser Buck fans? I put that in quotation mark because, outside of David Harrison, I don't know any Buck fans who were with this team prior to 2020. It's like Seattle and having them name a guy from the not named Steve Largent from their past prior to 2012. It's just all these bandwagon guys are starting shit with Saints fans all day long. Have you seen this, Bob?
Oh yeah, and I quickly block them every time I see it. David Harrison is just one. There are 3 or 4 guys that follow me either on Facebook or on Twitter. They're legitimate Tampa Bay fans, and I say legitimate Tampa Bay fans because they're kindred spirits with us. Long suffering through the 70s and most of the 80s, etc. The vocal a-holes are the Tampa Brady near fans.
Yep.
The ones that'll disappear just like that when Mr. Brady finally does retire and when his deal with the devil is up. Those are the ones that start the beef with the Saints fans, and very few other fan bases. I mean, they're posting videos of they're at the Philadelphia playoff game at the game. Mm-hmm. And they're posting live Twitter videos of saying Saints suck and among other things. I hit the block button real quick. They're not worth my time, my energy, or my oxygen because they themselves are wastes of all 3.
Well, here's the thing. I've always said that, and Sean, I'm going to ask your opinion on this too. I've always said that anybody that's been a fan of a team for a long time, you've got certain rival players that you look at, like we talk about Joe Montana. When they were a division rival, you're like, okay, that's a Saints killer. This guy, Joey Galloway, was somebody who always had these monster games against the Saints, when he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So I've always wanted to ask these guys, name for me a Bucs killer from the Saints, not named Drew Brees, that doesn't play for the Saints anymore. Name them. And I know they can't because they are, like you said, Tampa Bay, Brady Nears? Is that what you call them? Brady Nears? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a TikTok video. Guy's got a Patriots jersey on. He's got the Mac Jones jersey on. And he's like, Patriots fans after the Buffalo game, and the guy just gets up all despondent, flips off the light, then turns the light back on. He's got a Buccaneers Brady jersey on, and he sits down, getting ready to watch the game. And that's who these people are.
Yep.
That's really who they are. Sean, can you think of a guy, a rival, like you could pick Atlanta, you could pick Carolina, that you knew every time we played these guys, and you could pick the Rams and the 49ers too, but every time we played these guys, you don't want to play them because you're like, man, this dude's going to go off again. And I hate this bastard because, he does
First
this.
one that the first one that comes to mind is Steve effing Smith.
There you go. Steve Smith. Great example. I hated playing Steve Smith. I respect the hell out of his game. But I
Yeah.
swear, I used to want to go put on a uniform just so I could get in a fight with him because I wanted to beat him with his own helmet because that's how much I disliked that man, you know. And yeah, that's exactly it. To me, that's a rivalry. You've got a player
Yeah.
that you despise from the other team. You'd love to have
Roddy
him on your
White.
team. No, Roddy White. That was just an asshole there. Roddy White. but but Steve Smith was somebody that I probably would love being on the Saints. I'd have loved him on my team. But when he played for somebody else, I know people would say today, Atlanta fans and Carolina fans, Tampa fans, say about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Absolutely.
You'd love to have him on your team, but man, when he was on that other team, you wanted to kill him. You would, if you saw him walk in the street, you would accelerate, to go get him. I mean, because Roddy White, he talked a lot. I can't think of a game where Roddy White really hurt us. I thought that um um the Steve Barkowski era, Gerald Riggs, William Andrews, those are the guys that used to hurt
Yeah.
me a lot more than Roddy White. Roddy White was just a loudmouth. He was like Ric Flair. Talk all this shit, and you just wanted to go over there, and I wanted somebody to go whack him while he's talking all that shit because you knew when he got in the ring, some bullshit was going to happen, and he was going to claim he won, but he didn't actually beat the dude. So that's the kind of person Roddy White was. Every
I
inch of my
cannot
life.
believe you just sat here and compared Roddy White to Ric Flair.
All right. How about
I
Roddy
think
Piper?
that's a sign that it's time to close.
No, Roddy Piper. How about that? Roddy Piper.
Oh
Another
no, that's even worse.
another guy who used to talk a lot of shit, and that's the guy you wanted to go beat him over the head because he talk all this shit. Nobody would touch him. That's why. What was that? Bucks have no scars. That is true. Um, the Bucks, if they feared anybody in the NFC Central, it would have been the Bears. That's probably the one team where everybody beat them.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, they probably didn't like playing the Bears of all of them because the Vikings weren't very good until the 90s. And the Bears, at least Mike Ditka era, but Detroit was always terrible, even with Barry Sanders. And the Packers didn't get to be good until the 90s as well. I mean, Lindy Infante and the Magic Man aside, they really just were not a very good team.
The only time Tampa Bay got talked about on a national level was twice a year when they played the equally bad Green Bay Packers. And Pete Axthelm and
Pete
Bay
Axthelm.
of Pigs. He had a
Bay of
whole
Pigs
Bay of
game.
Pigs segment
Yep.
on. I think Axe worked for NBC Sports or CBS Sports at the time. That's
Yep.
the only time the Buccaneers even got talked about through the 80s.
Yeah, anytime they played, anytime the Packers and the Bucks played, the Bay of Pigs. Yep, and they talked about that when Pete Axthelm went to ESPN. Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. It was the creamsicle jerseys. I've got, and you can pull it up to the 1991 Saints highlights on ESPN. Here's Chris Chandler trying to, lead the Bucks on a rally against the Dome Patrol, and Chris Berman goes, but the Buccaneers, this is them. The snap over the head, got to run around they kick the ball, everything else. So that's really who Tampa has been forever. So, but anyway, Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I know Sean's dying, and I really didn't want to make you talk a whole heck of a lot, Sean, because I know how I felt 2 weeks ago. It was hard to talk,
It
but
really is.
I hope you feel better. I hope everybody feels better this week. I know so many people who have either the flu or COVID right now. It's not even funny, but I'm hoping everybody gets to be better. Um, Divisional round. Expanding the playoffs, we really got some bad games. These should be the better games this week.
Mhm.
I've always found divisional round games be better than even the championship games.
Agreed.
So we got divisional round games. A lot of Super Bowl anniversaries are this week too, because back then when this league was 14 weeks long and the playoffs took place in December, Super Bowl took place in January. So we're going to see even more now at the end of January. Some of the later Super Bowl anniversaries should be coming up soon. We'll talk about some of the best Super Bowls we ever saw next time, not involving the Saints. Best Super Bowls we saw. And we'll talk about the divisional round games, the results in the NFC Championship and AFC Championship games, and any other Saints news that may or may not come about. Who knows? But in the meantime, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.